Oh. Narayana. Hari Om and greetings from Albany. Today, when you met people at the grocery store, at work, at school, wherever you met people, suppose they invited you to a gathering this evening to watch a movie, to go for a drink, to play a game. And you told them no, that I'm engaged on Thursday evening. And then they asked you, what do you do on Thursday evening? What is this engagement that you're referring to? What would you tell someone? What do you do on Thursday evenings? And for some of you, for many years, what happens from the 7:30 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time slot? If someone were to ask me, I would share that this engagement helps me to engage in the right actions. The right actions. And that's not it, because I think most of us do engage in right actions, but we're miserable doing it. We're jealous seeing other people doing it. So this engagement helps me to engage in the right actions with the right attitude. To be dedicated, to be accepting. So really this engagement is called the right association. The association helps one to be clear, to have conviction and confidence about the right actions with the right attitude. In a more technical sense, this rightness, this dharma, is a means to vidya. Vidya is that which helps us to remember. Helps us to remember oneness. And the manifestation of oneness is selflessness. Where you are ready to do anything for anyone. That's how we think and speak and act towards ourselves, to do the same with others. The opposite of vidya is avidya. It is not remembering oneness, but it is ignoring oneness. That's why this is called ignorance. And the more one ignores oneness, the more one feels separation, and this manifests as selfishness. And if I were to ask all of you, what is the most universal way that we are selfish? For those who were part of our community call last night, the way that we are universally selfish, and we justify this, is how consumption-oriented we are. With the space we take, with the materials we buy, and what's being sacrificed is the environment. What's being sacrificed is sat, existence. Recently, I casually told someone, who cares about enlightenment if 10, 15 years from now, we won't even have a space to hold our books, to hold our classes. Vidya, to remember this oneness. In Shloka 5 of Upadesha Sara, Sri Ramana is teaching us to serve, not to volunteer, which is limited in space-time matter, but to serve all of the environment and every part of creation. And a perfect way to understand this is what we did 2 courses ago when we studied Bhaja Govinda. What does Bhaja stand for? To sing. Now Navaratri is happening and everyone's singing Mahishasura Mardani Stotra. They don't know what that means. They don't know what the meaning of each word is, but let's sing. The evolution of singing is to seek, to bring your mind to where your mouth is. The evolution of seeking is to serve, to bring your effort there also. And then serving can take on more depth into worshiping, into loving, and finally into being. Sing, seek, serve, worship, love, be. Acharya Shankara is sharing, Sri Ramana is sharing, we were just studying Bhaja Govindam, Sri Ramana is sharing that the creator and creation are one. So to be the creator, to be consciousness. Yeah? We'll continue to Shloka 6. This text is so practical. If Atma Bodha was so philosophical, this is so practical. After you read these verses, to still not engage in sadhana or discipline, nobody can help you. Just give up. Did I say that out loud? Please repeat each line. Uttamastavat uchamandataha. Uttamastavat uchamandataha. Chittajam japa dhyanamuttamam. Chittajam japa dhyanamuttamam. Together. Uttamastavat uchamandataha chittajam japa dhyanamuttamam. Simple Sanskrit words. Stavat is like the word stuti. That essentially is to sing. And here why singing is being brought up. In this verse, Sri Ramana is highlighting japa. Is there anyone in our course that's never heard of the word japa before? Everyone's heard of japa. Japa in English means repetition. It does not mean prattling. Some people define japa as prattling. That's a really harsh way to define japa. It means repetition. And what is to be known about japa is there is no inquiry. When you do japa, there's no inquiry, there's only repetition. And the logic behind this, as you speak, so you think. As you think, so you develop. So speaking leads to thinking, which leads to developing. And Swami Tejamayana gives a lovely example of the word that is repeated makes such a difference. Beside me there is a lamp. Suppose I do japa of lamp, 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 lamp. Even as I say it, it becomes more annoying. Lamp, lamp, lamp. Right? There's an end to it. How long or how deep can I do japa or repeat the word lamp? The word, the phrase that is repeated has to have infinite substance. substance, where you never feel bored. That's the key. And the only way that I won't be bored about repetition is when that word is God's name, describing enlightenment. Om Namah Shivaya, Aham Brahmasmi, infinite substance. So japa is being introduced, and japa begins with stuti. Stuti means to sing. There's so much support when you sing. There's instruments, there's clapping, there's people. It's easy. We see this happening in concerts. Many times people go to concerts where they're actually not so interested in the band or the music, but when they see everyone else moving and flowing, they start to do that too. That mob mentality. And Acharya Shankara is saying, Uttama, I said it again. Sri Ramana says, it doesn't matter, they're all the same. Sri Ramana says that higher, Uttama, or more evolved than singing is Uccha Japa. Uccha means loud japa. And the definition of loud japa is that someone sitting with you in the same room can hear you. So if I say, Om Namo Narayanaya, everyone in the room can hear me. That is Uccha Japa, and this is more evolved than singing. Why? Because there's less support. When you do japa, you can't play the tabla. When you're engaged in japa, then people can't clap beside you. So it is loud repetition. And this is important to know because if you're ever distracted, you should chant loudly. And if you chant loudly, it naturally means you have to chant slowly also. The louder you are, the more energy it takes, so you slow down then. When you slow down, that focus comes back. So if you're ever engaged in repetition and you're just feeling sleepy or distracted, then start chanting loudly. Come back to that focus. This is one of the primary purposes of japa, is to build momentum, to build focus. Without being one of the most focused people you know, you cannot be enlightened. Your book doesn't have it because I think you have a newer book, but my book does. Your face will never look like this if you don't learn how to focus, where you exude being, demands focus. And focus comes from momentum. Momentum comes from sameness. When you do the same action, you have the same intention again and again and again, that momentum leads to focus. If you ignore the rest of what I say, like many of you do, please understand that what is being shared in this shloka is the necessity of focus. And what's great about focus is that you save time. You don't lose things. You don't lose people. You become productive because there's so much focus. Some teachers share that when you do japa, you should try to synchronize your breath with your repetition, so pranayama and japa can be together. Such as, everyone take a deep breath in and listen through your nose and listen carefully. And breathe out slowly through your nose, listening. Inhale. Exhale. It sounds, and if you have less faith, it sort of sounds like so hum. So hum. So is saha, means he. And hum is aham. So he am I am he. He am I am he. It helps one to focus. What Swami Tejamananda shared with us when we studied this, to really develop this focus, we should take up a anushtanam. Anushtanam essentially means a vow. Take up a vow of your orientation towards japa, which demands a sankalpa and a sankhya. Sankalpa means the purpose of this vow, and sankhya means the context or how much japa you're going to do. I'll give you an example. A friend that I grew up with, he really wanted something. He's actually never told me what that something is. So for an entire year, he gave up pizza. Now that's a big deal for someone who's growing up on pizza, and to not eat pizza for a year, that's a big deal. It is a big deal, right? Or am I just being dramatic about giving up pizza for a year? And he's not so faithful, but I know what he wanted, he got. He at least told me that. So now all of us, we want stuff, we have desires. If we can make this more sattvic, more about quietude, suppose I want to be just less temperamental. I want to be less reactive when people criticize me. You take that as your anushtanam. This is my vow that I'm going to be more patient. Okay, that's my vow. So now the sankalpa is clear. The vow is a vow, and the purpose of that vow is to be more patient. And now I have to take up a sankhya. So I will use 3 malas, or 3 times 108 of Om Namah Shivaya, and I'll do this for 6 months. You were hoping I was going to say for 6 days, right? You think you're going to give up impatience in 6 days? 6 months, 6 years. I want you to experiment, flirt with this idea of a anushtanam, a vow you want to take up. What is the purpose? What is the number behind that? So if you can see my hand visually, Acharya Ramana, that will work, is talking about japa, repetition. Because as you speak, you think, you develop. And the introduction to japa is singing, which so many of us know. The evolution of singing is loud chanting, which means someone in the room can hear me. The evolution of that is mandataha, which means only you can hear yourself. It's still verbal, but nobody else in the room can hear you repeat that now. So if uchaha is Om Namo Narayanaya, mandataha is Om Namo Narayanaya. You sort of can't hear it, but you were trying to listen to me. Only I can hear that. And in the next line, the evolution doesn't stop. Chitta jam japa, the repetition that is born in the chitta, in the mind. So now all of a sudden, it's stopped being verbal and now it's only mental. So I'm doing it right now, but you obviously cannot perceive that. And this visualization is important because it's like we're going back to the source. Sound, like even a speaker goes like this. There's that propulsion. I think that's the right word. So here too, we're going back to the source, from loud to soft to quiet to still. And there's a technical Vedantic definition of all of this, which I think is so fascinating. At the outside, this is the evolution of thought to word. At the outside, this is called Vaikari. Vaikari is word. Vaikari means to speak. And that is doing japa with your mouth. Mukha japa. Vaikari. How Vaikari came to be is known as Madhyama. Madhyama is where that word is not spoken, but that word is only in the mind. That's called Manasa Japa. So Vaikari started from Madhyama. Madhyama started from what is known as Pashyanti. Pashyanti is like an idea that you can see, but you can't conceptualize it. Have you all experienced that before? You have this idea, you have this notion, but you just can't describe it in your mind, leave alone with your mouth. Yes? So you can see it, but you don't know the details. It's like seeing a person. You know, that person has the structure of my brother or the structure of my friend, but I don't know for sure if that is my person. So Pashyanti, and this is the most important part. Where does this idea come from? Para Vani. Vani means, again, speech, but it's not Vaikari, it's not my speech, it is Paravani. It is the Lord's, it is God's speech. And if you're connecting all the dots, that shows, where do our words come from? From God's word. Paravani expresses as this idea, Pashyanti, which expresses as Madhyama. I now have that mental description, and that's expressed as Vaikari, which is, I can verbalize it, or Mukha Japa. So here, Sri Ramana is really describing deep Vedanta, but he's doing it in such simplicity, isn't it? We are most fortunate to study Upadesha Sara. To miss out on this opportunity is almost arrogant, because I feel I only study this and I don't study this. There's so much depth here, and this whole verse is completed with Uttamam, but the most involved, the most demanding is Dhyana. Dhyana is no longer Japa. I'm going to repeat myself. Japa means to repeat without inquiry. You start with singing, then loud, then soft, then mental. Dhyana is inquiry without repetition. Inquiry without repetition. And this inquiry is only possible after you've trained yourself to be someone who concentrates. Otherwise, you can't inquire. As soon as you ask yourself, who are you? That shallow mind says, you're Vivek. Your hair is like this. That's not what the answer should be. I should keep on saying, who are you? Who are you? Till I get to that depth. But I have to first learn how to concentrate. So dhyana is where we have to reach. And I'll complete this verse sharing with you an insight from our Meditation in Life course. Our equipments, body, breath, mind, intellect, ego, they have this programming to be extrovert. I call these the 5 eyes. The body interacts, like me looking at you. The breath inputs, I'm always breathing in, I'm always eating. The mind interprets. As I'm speaking, those people with quiet minds feel like, wow, I'm so fortunate, this is so profound. Those with disturbed minds think there's no utility to this, I should be doing something else. Yes? Same words, but interpreted differently. The intellect, the extrovert intellect, instructs. Do this, plan for this, I have to study for this, I have to buy this. And the ego, which by definition is separation, extroversion, identifies. It makes us keep on interacting, interacting, inputting, interpreting, instructing. But when you engage in dhyana or contemplation, you have to change all of these five eyes. You have to neutralize them. You have to tell them to shut up by really practicing the opposite. So in contemplation, at the body level, instead of interacting, you have to relax. Relax is number one. Instead of inputting, number two for the breath is enjoy. Too many people think they're contemplating by controlling their breath. If there's control, it is not contemplation. Those are antonyms. You cannot control the breath and contemplate. So pranayama is not dhyana. That should be quite obvious now. The mind that is always interpreting, I have to substitute or practice the opposite by chanting. That's really where this shloka comes to show the importance of chanting. The intellect, and it gets much harder. The intellect that is instructing has to inquire. That's the dhyana part, okay? We really went from singing all the way to dhyana. And if you do this well enough, deep enough, instead of this ego identifying, you will just observe the ego. And earlier I shared, Maya cannot handle inquiry. The ego cannot handle the observation. Once you start to be the watcher, the witness, the sakshi, that ego, it's like a vampire that's exposed to sun. You know how they kind of just implode? That's what will happen to our ego. Ready? Oh.